Greetings, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Accidental Farmer Podcast, a podcast that chronicles the lives of farmers, especially telephone farmers. And we describe telephone farmers as farmers who do not live where they practice their farming. In this episode, we are privileged and honored to have with us Wangari Kuria, farmer on fire, a real trailblazer. I'm going to introduce her by reading her bio. Wangari Kuria is more than just a farmer. She's a digital marketing director at Farmer on Fire, a Nairobi-based organization providing end-to-end support for smallholder farmers across Africa. Over the past 4 years, Wangari has cultivated an online community of over 1 million farmers. You heard me right, 1 million farmers, sharing invaluable insights on agribusiness, innovation, and sustainability. But Wangari's impact goes beyond digital platforms. She is deeply committed to empowering vulnerable single mothers from pastoralist communities who are disproportionately affected by climate change. Through her model farms, Wangari commercially produces mushrooms, black soldier fly larvae, and azolla, offering these women hands-on training and incubation opportunities. By equipping them with agribusiness skills and financial literacy through table banking, she helps them establish their own sustainable ventures. Her outstanding contributions to food security and women's empowerment have earned her global recognition, including the prestigious 40 Under 40 Africa Award and the Global Citizen Prize. She's also a multi-published author and currently pursuing a PhD in agriculture and climate change at the University of Edinburgh, the prestigious University of Edinburgh. Wangari is now seeking partnership and collaboration opportunities with organizations and individuals aligned with her mission of increasing commercial food security and agri-tech adoption across Africa. We all hope to support Wangari in her mission to drive sustainable change and create resilient farming communities across the continent. Wangari, welcome.
Wow, that sounds long.
Do you recognize that person?
Sometimes I wonder, because me, I'm just here in the grind, putting my head down, doing my thing. Yeah. And then, it's nice to be recognized too. But
But you're doing something right, and we're very impressed. Mm-hmm. I am the accidental farmer. I got into farming by accident, and I've had very many accidents ever since, but I'm still there. So I want to ask you, Wangari, what inspired you to venture into farming and then to start Farmer on Fire? Farmer on Fire is the company and Farmer on Fire is you.
Is me. Okay. We are both the essence and the person.
I love that, yes.
So thank you for having me on your podcast. I love your title because I'm like, that is me, accidental farmer, because I grew up in the village and my parents sent me to campus in Nairobi and they were like, go thrive, get a desk job. And then now, years later, I'm the accidental farmer.
You've gone back to your roots.
And they're like, have you tried applying for these jobs? You're a master's degree holder. What happened to all that knowledge? And I'm like, I am using it here. Going to school and going for especially tertiary level education is something that should build your capacity to think critically and to see solutions to the problems around you. It's not to get the job. I think we need to reframe that.
So I think you are anomaly. Most of us went to school to get the certificate. All that critical thinking and solving the world's problems
wasn't even in the curriculum. Your teacher also didn't know.
Okay.
But with the challenges we're having in our modern day society, we need to tweak that for a child to be allowed to have enough space to figure out themselves. And once they do that, they also figure out their environment.
And it should be applied knowledge. We should be able to apply what we've learned.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what inspired you to venture into farming?
Yeah. So I got the desk job after graduation. I had my BA from UN, and
to the delight of your parents.
yes, they came with buses and trees, and there was dancing and ululu lesson. It was very exciting. They got their value for their money back according to their expectation.
Yeah.
But now, and I also went into corporate. I was in real estate industry for 7 years, where I was senior management. I was doing project management. I was kind of in the middle of everything. And the project manager is someone who is called by the security, by the suppliers, by the employees, by
everything.
the clerk of works, all that. And it was a very exciting job and a great opportunity. I'm very thankful. And I lived on Kiambu Road, worked in Westlands. Life was good.
Yes.
Then the cliff came.
And that was?
So Uhuru Kenyatta, during his first term, put a capping on interest rates on bank loans at 14%.
Okay. And what was the consequence of that?
The consequence of that was that the real estate industry used to do things called off-plan. It's where you see a drawing and you go to a bank and they give you money and funding to kind of implement that. And as the people are buying the properties, they're servicing that loan. However, this whole idea to the financiers, it was very risky. So they were giving us loans at around 20-21%, and it was still making business sense for us. However, when you put that blanket cover on everyone and not looking at specific industries, and that's how it tanked the real estate industry of Kenya. And you can see all those big companies that were there are not there now. It was because of that executive decision. Yes. So I found myself jobless in the streets, wondering who am I and all that. And I had followed the script that my parents had given me. You grow up, you work hard, you go to school, you get the job. And I had done all those things, and it still found myself where I didn't know who I was. So in a way, it was an opportunity for me to figure out my own authentic path compared to what my parents had prescribed and society had prescribed for myself. And so here I am in Kitengela. Those properties you buy because your friend is nagging you too much. You're just like, okay, I have extra income. Let me just throw it there. In 10 years, I'll go and resell that plot because who lives there? It's too dry and dusty. Hey, it becomes your saving grace. I ended up moving there, setting up a house. I remembered from the village, my mom had a kitchen garden, which was the difference between us sleeping hungry and not.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because she would just make sure that she had ground some flour, a debe or so, and we have a kitchen garden. The family has eaten. As my neighbors are saying, oh, we didn't eat last night, as we didn't have that story. And so for me, I took that lesson, and I also had a kitchen garden in Kitengela. And the Maasais, with their cows, they're like, Mama, what are you doing? We don't farm here. Hapa unaeka mbuzi. And me, I'm like, I don't know how to do animals. This is what I can do. And so I irrigated, and it worked very well. And with time, I started realizing, I have one good thing, which is market. A lot of people around me are in high rises, are in town. They don't farm. The mindset when they came from rural urban migration wasn't to come and farm in town. Otherwise, they would have stayed where they are.
That's right.
But the one critical thing, especially COVID taught us, is a human being needs food.
Yes.
All other things can be put on hold. Education can be put on hold. Clothing, shelter.
You have to eat every day.
Yeah, you can live under a bridge, but you need to eat.
Exactly.
So when I realized that I had that advantage, so I started scaling up, and I would go to my neighbors' lots. They had abandoned it like mine, and I would be like, hi, when I see them come visit on the weekend. And you can literally see the wife walking back to the car because you can't see the potential of the land. And the husband is trying to convince her, hey, it is the year we start building. And the wife is like, no. Because the women are decision makers of such, because they're thinking, where will my child go to school? Where is there water? Is there infrastructure? There are no roads. Is there electricity? How will I bring up a family here? And in that is when I would pop in and take that opportunity.
Oh.
And I'd be like, hi, my name is Wangari. I live in that house and I want to farm on your land. I will not build any permanent structure and I will make sure it's not grabbed. And when the rural electrification comes, I'll make sure that they, drop a pole or a line near you, and I would sell myself and they would give me the land for free.
And you would do that and you would grow.
Yes,
and then
I ended up having almost an acre. Yes. They lived far away, but I would sell to the Kitengela residents around me.
Yeah.
So I ended up having almost an acre. I piped water from a guy who had a borehole. They metered me and they would give me a bill like NW and Nairobi.
Water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And life was good. I was doing kienyeji vegetables. So the people there, because they are mostly Kisis and Kambas and Kikuyus, they'd be like, unajua hii mboga tumetafuta, hatupati fresh. We have to get it from Marikiti. So this is a golden opportunity. Yeah, so that's how I ended up into becoming Farmer on Fire.
Wow. So the market was where you were. You identified your own market. You saw a gap.
I was like, what do I have in my hand? Yeah. God asked Moses.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you grew indigenous vegetables, which are eaten daily. Mm-hmm. That's something that
and they fetch a higher price than cabbage and skuma. Yeah.
Wow. So from there, you grew this. Then what next? What did you do after that?
Then next, I discovered something called mushrooms because I was limited in space.
Yes.
When I started farming all these things, now when the wife comes, they start to see the potential of the land, and the owners start to.
I want my land back.
And you were like, "Thank you so much for the, for the grace you've given me, and you give back the land." Yes. And so I started realizing, I need to think of something different. And what do I have? I still have my eighth, but what can I still do within that eighth? Yeah. And that's how I learned that mushroom farming is grown indoors. So I went to a place in Kikuyu where we were trained. We paid 2,500. We sat the whole day and we were trained how to do mushrooms. And I came back home and I implemented that. And it's not like I had even money or capital. Remember, I was when you're employed and you have a payslip, the commercial banks are pushing loans down your throat.
But once you are self-employed.
Now it's when they even ask, what was your grandmother's maiden name? When you have a payslip, you can even be cleared a loan in 24 hours.
Yes.
Now when you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I want money to scale, I have 100 chickens, I want to put 1,000, and the vetting you will go through, and the higher interest rates you will go through, and they consider farming high risk, and you just find hurdles over hurdles. And that's one of the major issues that I try to bring up, especially for women in agriculture, that they are more marginalized even than the men who are doing the farming, because they are thought not to have any assets, which is part of our patriarchal society.
Wow. So you got into mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been doing mushrooms?
I've been doing mushrooms for 7 years.
Farming,
It's been a struggle, but that's the thing. I've realized in this life, if you're consistent, even the thing just starts to respect you. It's like, hey, this chick is not giving up.
Really?
So eventually now it's starting to pay off. And part of what I did is, because I was not even in Kitengela, I'm 9 kilometers off Kitengela.
Yes.
And so I was interacting with the Maasais. Yes.
Okay. No, sorry. I mean, okay, I get you.
Yeah. I lived in the farm.
Yes. You lived on the farm,
Yes, on the farm. And my kids played with those Maasai kids. I would interact with those women. And so when the drought came, for me, it was very hard to start to see that even they're thinking about bride price on those young girls that play with my daughters, because they're between a hard rock and it's not that they're choosing to go back to early marriage. It's just that they are pushed to and their only source of income is pastoralism, and there is no pasture to feed these cows, and they start falling one by one and they die, and you can totally see the desperation of that family. And so for me, I was like, now what do I do? These are people I know. These are people I've interacted with.
Part of that community.
Yeah. So we built a Manyata house and we got a group of women and we started planting mushrooms, because mushrooms grow indoors and they grow in cool areas.
Okay.
And part of our African structures were designed for that. It is the Muzungu who brought these concrete walls that now came with AC and other extra costs of management. But traditionally, an African house is a very cool house, adapt to our weather in Africa at the tropics.
So you've been in mushroom farming over these few years.
Yeah.
You sell your produce. But you also train people on farming.
Yes.
Have you been would you consider yourself to have been successful in mushroom farming?
I would consider myself successful because we have amassed a community where we give end-to-end support. And that means that we start with first training you, because mushroom is very different from growing maize and beans.
Yes.
You're trying to grow a fungus that is high value.
Yes.
So you need someone to first understand the concept. Otherwise, they'll keep going back to where are the roots? How do I water? Why is it? How come a farm is portable and all those things? And so for me, it's first to sit them down and tell them, delete everything about parts of a plant, roots, stem, leaves, all that, and learn. Give me that blank plate, then let's grow a fungus. And a fungus has potential because you're using very little resources. One thing I like about mushrooms is that you're using waste from the environment, and I think we're going to talk about that when we talk about climate change.
Yes.
Is that you're using the waste of a farmer. A farmer was growing wheat, they got their grain, whatever is left is our raw material, was planting maize, whatever is left, the stalk, the cob, that agricultural waste is our source of, because it's soilless agriculture, it's our source of farm.
Yes.
And so that means the pricing of the capital of going into the industry is quite lower compared to the shelf prices. When you go to Carrefour and you see those prices, and the panet is a quarter, it's 250 grams.
Yes.
So the value you're getting in between amidst an industry that is considered high risk, high cost of input, so many challenges
very low margins.
But then with mushroom, it kind of flips it around.
Really? So the
it's
inputs
exciting.
are not as high as other.
Exactly.
And how about the perishability of mushrooms?
Yes, that's the other challenge. But then now we go into how do we value add, how do we dry it,
so
how
you do some
ground?
processing as well?
Yes, we have a spice line just for that.
Okay.
Yes, and we're also big on training people how to eat more mushrooms. We have found our communities. They're healthy, but it's like people don't have it in their natural cuisine.
It's not part of
our
palate.
Last year I had to go to Luyaland and I enjoyed some ovowa, which is very natural mushrooms growing in the forest.
Yes.
But they're also complaining because of climate change, they don't have a year-round supply. And so we trained a few women there because it's already part of what they eat in their diet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a question I ask all farmers that I meet.
Yeah.
Have you ever lost money?
Don't ask. We might start getting emotional.
Farming is an emotional thing.
It is, though. It is.
You need a lot of support.
Yes.
Social support. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that farming is not, I know it should be considered a business, but it's more than that. It's a very noble cause. You're trying to feed people. You're trying to make sure you feed them in something that is safe, that won't harm them later. They're trusting you with the most critical role in a human being. We were meant to be all farmers according to God's design.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer.
But then industrialization came and now we outsourced that role.
Yes.
And then now we are getting sick and we're like, where did we go wrong?
I know. Yes. So you have lost money.
I have lost plenty actually.
And what did you learn from those experiences from your losses?
One thing about mushrooms is that it's an industry that is not well tapped into. So we don't even have an experiential knowledge about the industry as it is. And so for me, it's take that mantle and try and amass as much knowledge as possible. Because as I said, we're not growing maize and beans. We're growing something completely new. And so the challenges are many. Actually, mushrooms are supposed to be grown in a lab by lab technicians and people who are, maintaining certain levels of hygiene. So us translating it into a farm setting brings a lot of challenges and a lot of failure. Yes.
Okay. But you've bounced back from that, you've overcome them.
The thing with farming is, and I'm sure you will attest to this.
Yes.
I was hoping you were gonna chime in your story. I'm sorry, I'm taking.
No. My story is going to come in.
Yes.
I'm still very interested intrigued. I want to consider mushroom farming now.
You should.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the thing about farming is that, and I know we are on this rat race of trying to make money, and everything is capitalism, economical.
Yes.
But as a human being, we find more fulfillment in other things other than economic. Yes, economic is a significant part. But the thing with farming is what it gives you, that even if you fail, you keep going back. There is an emotional attachment. There is a fulfillment. There is seeing that you've employed 10 more people. Someone who has a store in town can't employ 10 people, but a farmer can. And those are families you're supporting, and you're utilizing God's natural resources. So even when we're talking about this conversation about seeds and commercialization of seeds, and I'm like, this is the one thing that God made sure I am a creator. And I'm going to create human beings. Yes. And the one thing I'm going to make sure is that whatever I create, I don't keep coming back to earth to recreate, because there are things called seeds. The tree drops seeds and recreates itself. Human beings have seeds to recreate themselves. Yes. And for someone to take that fundamental part away, it's truly not a fair thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'll ask a tangential question. So what is the whole view of GMO and seeds that are not natural or not?
It's a complex conversation. I don't think there is a straight answer to
There's no straight answer.
Yeah.
That's fair. So this farming has taken you many places. There's one day I turned on the TV and I saw a clip of you in New York. Another time I talked, just a few minutes before we started this podcast, I read somewhere and I asked you said you were in China.
Yeah.
So you've been, not only within the country.
Globetrotting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are you doing in farming that's taking you around the world that I'm doing that's taking me nowhere?
Oh. I think first of all is your intention to the world.
Yes.
For me, because as I said, I was a graduate from USIU.
Yes.
So I couldn't just farm the way my grandmother or my mom farmed. I had to look at it in a broader perspective. And in that, I needed to first look at the entire value chain. Don't just be a farmer and a producer, and then you don't even know how you'll sell it.
Yes.
That's where most of us go wrong. It's just someone is sending me an inbox of, I have 1,000 cabbages being harvested next week. Where do I sell?
I get those messages every day. 20 tons of onions. Joe, find me a buyer.
Available. Find me desperately. Yes.
And it's,
the first thing is to have a bigger worldview of where do I sell? How do I interact with other value chains in the market, in the input? How do I partner with these people? Because they are looking for farmers to partner with.
Yes.
And then number 2 for me, it's also to see about community impact. Yeah. How I was that woman who was sad and depressed in the house, lost my job. I don't have an income. I don't have an identity. I was depressed. And I was looking up and asking God for a solution and someone to pull out my hand. And these ideas came to me. So why wouldn't I do that for the next person who is asking God those questions? Because we are all here to serve each other.
I wish we all had a spirit of abundance like you do. But that's it is. It's about abundance and sharing and giving. So these trips, how did tell me? Like, how did you end up in CNBC? What did you do?
So the 40 and under 40 Africa Award was in South Africa, Johannesburg.
Okay.
That one was for just how I make noise online. Yeah. That farming is not shady.
Yes.
Parents need to encourage their children, because I wasn't encouraged by my parents. They still thought this is below par. And to say farming is actually a noble thing, you're feeding people. Farming can be attractive. I am doing all this, even with my papers nicely knitted, somewhere in a drawer, but I'm still showing up. Don't have shame, have dignity that you're making that 100 shillings. Exactly. And in that making noise, that's how the digital part came about. And that kind of gave me leverage. You never know who's watching. Don't be shy at home. Create a podcast. Accidental.
Exactly. Visibility is key. Right?
Yes.
You have to be visible to be seen.
And don't say, oh, I don't know much.
Yeah.
No, what will I teach people? You have a unique talent that God has already placed in you. You just need to start exploring it. And the other thing is taking risks.
Yes.
And a lot of people have been bashing farming because it's high risk. And I'm not saying it's not, but telling people not to take risks because they have failed 1,000 times. Let us fail one more time. Yes, you have to be bold, because even that as much as it's high risk, it's also high return. Yeah.
Do you think that probably the challenge we have with farming for us telephone or urban or digital farmers is that we have unrealistic expectations about farming? We think we'll make money.
You come listen to Wangari and you're like, oh my God, I am in.
10 acres mushroom farming.
Another thing, which I want to talk about your agenda. They like going big in the initial step. Why are you doing 10 acres of onions and you've never farmed onions? With the assumption that I grew up in the rural areas. No, you didn't grow onions. Start with half an acre. The plan, is to do 10, but learn. It's a lab test experience. You will not make money in your first season. You will probably not make money in your second season. So allow that you are looking at this as a long-term plan. People just jump and they're excited and they burn money, and then now they're like, oh, farming did me bad. No, it's a project. I implement it in physics.
I can relate. We should have met 7 years ago.
Really?
Who has been a mentor to you on your journey? Is there someone you can identify, or things or people who've come to your aid? Or you can describe
for me, most of me self-taught if it's mushrooms, but I also have a community of friends. We have a very strong WhatsApp group.
And they've supported you.
Yes, people like Akina Caleb Karuga, Mr. Agriculture, people who are also speaking your name in those rooms and saying, oh, there is this lady who's fearless about this. And so having peers who are working with you. Farming, as we say, can be very lonely. And farmers, they don't even want to have farm visits. I want to hang out with my skumas and my chickens. Mimi staki kusumbuliwa na mtu. I want farm gate prices. We need to drop that notion. Open your farm. Let people come and learn. You are learning as much as they are learning. Yes.
Okay. So Caleb Karuga and other people, I see him online. And he's very inspirational, just like you are. So this online community of 1 million, how do you manage that? How do you manage 1 million people?
It's tricky, and that's why I need support in terms of the technical bit of it. But for now, we have an office and an office line, and we have a store in town. This is something we should probably say, that those people who are not able to come to the farm, which is in Kitengela and very interior, and maybe you might wait till we have a class, but we have a shop in town, Moy Avenue, next to MKU. It's called Princely Building, room A9. You just walk up, buy mushrooms, inquire, find out as much as you can about mushroom farming, and see how you can plug in.
That's interesting. How often do you hold your classes?
We hold them monthly. So we have a physical conference where we come. It's a whole day of mushroom farming. In the morning is theory and talking about the business,
and the returns. It's on location.
It's on location.
So it's not in a classroom.
No. This is the real deal. And then we spend the rest of the afternoon doing the farm tour. And then after that, we still have a practical lesson. On actually making a mushroom bag that you go home with and nurture it. It's not just a lesson. You're carrying that practical knowledge with you and trying to nurture it so that you can also now start scaling. And we eat a lot of mushrooms. We do eat a lot of mushrooms.
What are the health benefits? Tell me, what are the health benefits of mushrooms?
Mushrooms are the best. First, they're very tasty and they're guilt-free. They don't have cholesterol because we know some of the protein sources have that challenge. Another thing, they are big on protein sources. Most of our biggest clients are the Asian communities because they are vegan. And so their alternative source of protein, very big, is mushrooms.
And it's a healthy source.
Source of mushrooms. And then they also have micronutrients. Micronutrients help us digest the macros.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking care of your micro, that's when the doctor starts telling you, oh, you need to supplement, you need zinc, you need tablets.
And yet we have
And you
natural
don't want that.
alternatives.
Eat mushrooms every day. When I was in China, we were eating almost 5 types of mushrooms every day. Those people, they don't do chemicals, pills, and all that. You find a 130-year-old woman still doing her gardening and doing her things in the house, walking around. And when you're 130 in Kenya, you are senile. You can't even recognize people. Yes, so one of the ways is through this reishi Ganoderma mushroom. It's called mushroom of longevity life. So people need to eat more mushrooms.
We need to start growing and eating them.
I hope you eat a pack today, Joe.
I'm going to get my pack from you. So do you have any success stories of people who've gone through your program?
Yes.
And they're telephone farmers and they're, they're farmers and they're doing well.
They're farmers.
Yeah.
And with the telephone farming is also the idea of understanding where are your gaps.
Yeah.
So are you showing up in the farm often, or are you also getting back into your habit of just staying and hoping that people will take your risk, because at least you can blame them if something falls apart.
So we still have to be involved. We cannot delegate that
take on that mantle. Say the buck stops with me, because this thing of sometimes something is too risky. Kuku ngapi zimekufa leo, you hear 3 chickens died, and so you're not motivated to go. And so in a way you want to blame it on telephone farming, and it's because you lost your motivation. So also call it what it is, what happened along the way. Maybe it was too scary that you stopped going, or the bill for water came and it was too high, and at that point something shifted, because in the beginning you were very excited, you were showing up, things were going well, but something happened that you kind of now gave up on the project even before it gave up on you.
Tell us a bit about your work with the women in agriculture. And work with the pastoral communities and other communities. But you're big on women in agriculture specifically. Tell us about that.
So for us, we had a conference last year at Novotel Westlands. What
was the conference on?
It was about talking about the gaps and how to influence policy in Kenya. So we submitted a report for those discussions that happened that day to the government, to the CS, and hopefully that can help to empower our legislature and our lawmakers in trying to accommodate gender as an aspect in the farming. Because we know a lot of women are the one actually farming.
Yes,
if you go to
most of the work is done by the women.
Yes, however, we find that some of those profits, because they don't own the assets, they just have access to farm, and so it means that the man still has so much control. They can go to a bank and say, give me a loan. They'll be asked, what is your collateral? The title deed is in their grandfather's name or their husband's name. And so that becomes a challenge of how do we start tweaking and working around solutions that are based on the people who are actually feeding us. And we're not saying that it has to be a gender war.
No.
We are just saying that there are people here whose voices have not been felt, and maybe even other people have come and said what they think, but we actually want to hear from the actual farmers. So it was the first event where the farmers are the ones creating the forum and saying, these are our pain points. I know this is a broad concept that has been discussed, but specifically for me, this is how the solution looks like.
And so it was women farmers who were being addressed primarily in that conference.
Yes. There are also other male farmers, but majorly it was female farmers. Mother Karua came, he was a guest of honor.
Oh, fantastic.
The director for NMG was also there. It was a great session. We had therapy in the afternoon, because we women, we are communal like that. Yes.
So these, I'm glad that you brought that up, because many people don't see women, the gender as a factor, because the women, are the factors of production, but they don't get
the airtime to be asked. If I was a cleaner here and you wanted to ask me, how do I make my job better? So I'll come and tell you, unaona hii mop, kama it would have been doing this and facing this way, and we can talk about design together, because I am the person using the tool. Yes, but now we don't consult those women, and their input is important, because they're the ones dealing with the production day to day. So we just need to give them a voice and hear how does a solution look like, because the solution might come, but it's not, it's from people who are sat in a room.
People who don't really know what the issues are.
Yes.
Yeah. And your model farms, you've got model farms addressing climate change.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do they address the challenges of climate change, especially for smallholder farmers?
Yeah. So climate change is a challenge that is a reality for a farmer. I know here there is a lot of conspiracy theories, but if you ask a farmer, they will say for sure, there is a problem.
April 2024. Yes, when I lost a substantial amount of my crops
because of flooding.
Yeah. So for me, I believe I've experienced it.
Yes. Yeah, so it's something that we have to deal with as a reality that we have right now. Yeah. And for me, it's trying to see what modern technologies can we borrow from the other societies that they are adopting that is not dependent on more space. We are having limited of space because of population. Less water. Rainfall has become erratic. And something that is adaptable, that doesn't need a lot of pesticides, because we're also seeing that is harmful to us. But also these pests and insects are coming from the increased temperatures related to global warming. So how can we work within that? And then the fourth one is to lower the cost of production. With the global economics right now, people are barely just even producing tissue paper. You just go to the supermarket and you're like,
the prices are so high.
Yes. But for the farmer, it's 10 times that. And for me, even when I go to things like black soldier fly larvae and things like azolla and mushrooms, it's first to think, what is the cost of input to this? Something like black soldier fly.
Tell us what it is and how it helps in sustainable farming.
We are growing house flies to create worms that are high protein dense. They have over 44% protein that is fed to animals. Eventually, if you have a clean source of waste, you can feed it to humans. But for now, we're just focusing.
We'll eat them through the animals.
Yes, we are. Plus, some communities like the Luya people, they already eat termites when the rains have come in, and they're quite tasty. So it's not something so foreign. Oh, I can't eat worms. If they're prepared well, believe me, I was in China and I ate a whole array of things because we are unlimited. And just because you found a culture of not eating something doesn't mean you also adapt it blindly. And so these black soldier flies, they are good protein source, lower cost of production. A lot of chicken farmers have quit. They've literally just said that business is not making money for me. The cost of input, the feeds are so high. And one of the things that makes the feeds high is the protein source. Protein comes from fish and soya. We don't grow soya in Kenya. It's coming from Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia. You get, by the time it's getting here, and we all know how much inflation has happened in the bean business. We used to buy Kamande at 150. It's almost triple that price. So beans have gone up because they are the alternative source of protein. And so for us producing these black soldier flies, which have higher protein, because soya has only 29%, omena and ochoga, which it means we're also depopulating the oceans because of overfishing. And by the time it gets to where we are, there's that transport cost, emissions, and all that. Well, if I go to Kitengela market, there's a lot of rotten avocados. I just put them in the pickup. I just can feed the worms, and I get 15% per kilo cost of production for the same protein.
So I should go into mushroom farming and black soldier fly larvae. And there's a market. There's a market for this. Who is my market?
The issue right now is scaling. But Unga Feeds, we've had conversations with millers, with people who are making. They also don't want to see what is happening. They also want to stay sustainable in the business every day. And they can see this is a solution. But then how do we produce a ton of worms a day?
So you need many people to be doing it.
You need many people, or you need even the county coming in. Instead of having that Dandora landfill, can we make fertilizer from it? Can we make protein from it and resell it? Because we need that capacity of waste as well.
And very briefly, tell me a little bit about Azolla. What is it?
Azolla is an interesting thing. It's an aquaponic plant that grows in water.
Okay.
So think of a hyacinth that's happening in Lake Naivasha, which is a menace, right?
Yes.
So this is how Azolla also behaves. It's very colonizing. It just takes over. You put it in a pond, and in a week it's full, and it starts to want to overflow. But this is a good aspect in that you just harvest and feed it to your livestock, and it has 22% protein, which means if you are giving a bag of feeds to your chicken every day, you, instead of 50 kgs, you just need to give it 30 kgs because you're supplementing with this other source of protein that is even tastier because it's organic. Remember, animals, chickens used to eat worms. They used to eat grass and all those things. But then we concreted the poultry houses. Now they're there wondering, okay. So we need to also figure out how can we put our eyes and ears out there to figure out technologies that come to bridging in these gaps. It is not just Azolla or BSF of mushrooms. There is so many opportunities out there. We just need to say, I don't need to farm 10 acres of wheat to make money. No.
Or 100 acres.
Yes, or 100 acres. I can still, with that income, like now, if I would calculate for you a mushroom farm of 10 by 10 meters, will give you around 500,000 every 2 months.
Listeners, have you heard? There's hope in farming.
Yes. So, you can scale even as you're doing small.
So you're a true innovator. That's how I would describe you, because you did not let that setback push you down. You came up and you were hard to believe, but you were self-taught. You literally went out to find what works, solutions, and you make it work. But I also like the aspect that you brought in community. So you're giving back in your own way. You're helping communities who might not know what to do. Very impressive.
Yes.
As we come to a close, I would like to know what books have influenced. Have you read any book? In one book in particular that you have read that has influenced or shaped your thought as a farmer or entrepreneur?
I think for me, I'm big on social media as well. As much as I'm a creator, I also am a consumer.
So there are people you follow?
Yes, there are people I follow obsessively. And mostly for me, it's not even books that have taught me something. It's books that teach me how to think better.
Okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a book on farming. Because by doing that. So is there one book you want to tell?
I think there is Stephen Butt. He's written The Diary of the CEO. Currently, that's what
that's what you're reading.
Into it. Yes, because I love the way he thinks. He's talking just about social media marketing, but the way he puts it in such a global way. And that's how it should take everything. Don't just say, I'm just planting some maize and seeds. No, I want to be a miller of unga. Very organic, the best unga in this world you've ever seen. Don't just say, I'm planting some maize.
So you have to be a master. You have to do something and do it to the best you can.
You have to believe yourself. Inaitwa kuuza uoga. You have to see fear and you push it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And your faith, of course, plays a very big part in what you have
and for me, faith is not necessarily religion. You won't see me evangelizing on all that. But for me, faith means the simple thing of believing in something you haven't seen or touched. Yes. And that's where we just go wrong on this whole thing of faith. It's because we say that, but do we actually say that? No. We still go back to complaining, Ruto, the economy. No, you prayed.
It's the easy option.
It has happened. Believe it. Yes.
I had somebody describe Gen Xs, which is the generation that we are part of NATO. No action, talk only. We don't do, but we say. But we're going to change that. Now I have to listen to.
Action.
I'm ready to take action.
Yes.
So, finally, what's next for you and Farmer on Fire? What do you see happening? What next? You've conquered the world. You're doing all these things. And let's not forget, you're still doing a PhD. You're doing it by distance learning, I presume, online.
Yes.
You're still doing a PhD. So what next? What's next? Do you have to surmount? You've done it all.
I am unlimited. Kipchoge said that. We just need to believe that and keep adding to our cart. And I know sometimes can be overwhelming because people want to put you in a box and want to figure you out, and they don't understand what is multi-talented. As long as you fathom it in your mind, you can create it into your reality. And so for me right now, I'm looking at scaling mushroom farming.
Okay.
I'm doing an inter-county roundup to train as many farmers as possible and try and see how we can have mushroom porridge for our public schools.
So how can our listeners support your mission? For example, me and everyone else who listens to this podcast, how can we be part of Wangari's Farmer on Fire
That
community?
would be amazing.
Yeah. What do we need to do?
You can plug in, you can email us, we can see our point of collaboration. But most of all, it's just that even sharing this podcast, that link to someone else and saying, oh, listen to this. Here, if it's going to inspire you or motivate you into action, because it doesn't have to definitely come back to us.
Yes.
It's as long as are you passing that on. Don't hold.
We should not hold it. Don't store things up here.
Yes.
we have to share this.
Become like Joe who's saying, let us talk about pain. Watu wakuje unaekelea nini serviettes hapa. People have a therapy and say, I carried lots of napier grass when growing up. Farming, I am tortured by farming. Yes. And then they let that go and now they become successful farmers.
That's true.
But if they're coming with that burden of I had to do this before going to school. We need to have those conversations.
We have to have the right mindset.
Yes.
Wangari, I want to thank you very much. You are really inspiration to some of us farmers. And I like the fact that you've given us solutions. You've told us that there are crops, there are things that we can grow that can actually make money.
Yeah.
The points that I've taken away is that start small.
Start small.
Get it right when it's small.
And keep learning, take those risks. I'm going to India next month because they have a kind of capacity. They don't have acres and acres, but those people can make slippers from a kitchen.
Anything, exactly. And those are the real solutions that we have here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the way you pivoted. You were in one profession.
Yeah.
When that didn't work out, you
keep moving because dying is not an option.
No, you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving, and you moved into farming, and you've changed the way we look at farming. You're building communities, you're helping women farmers, and you're doing all these wonderful things.
And increasing nutrition. We want
nutrition
people to eat healthier.
Because as you've told us, food is actually medicine.
It's the core. Yes,
it's the core.
True.
Well, listeners, there you've heard her, Wangari Kuria, Farmer on Fire. I hope now you're all going to be on fire after listening to her and to be inspired. We are so privileged to have heard from her. And if you subscribe to our newsletter and you listen to the show notes, we'll give you contacts on how you can reach out to Wangari and to become part of this community where we'll eat healthier and grow food that is good for us and do something and give back to the communities.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Wangari.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.